We're anxious to get things kicked off, just like you guys are. I think we've had a really, really competitive and productive fall camp. A little bit different vibe, I would say, just because it's been the first time in a long time that we've gotten going so early. School's not in session, so it's really been about training and football, and usually the week of the first game, or it has been the last couple seasons, or since I've been a head coach, that school has started. So that's not the case because of playing early, which is maybe a little bit of a benefit for us with some young guys that we've got to get ready to play, not from a practice standpoint, but from a focus standpoint for such a quality opponent and going on the road early. So, I think it's given us the opportunity as a team to be closer together with not as many people on campus right now. I think it's given us a chance to have a little extra meeting time with guys and keep them focused on what we're trying to do. You don't want to. It doesn't need to be overkill, but I think it's been a little bit better situation for us, a little unique. So we've done some things a little bit differently as far as our meeting time and our camp schedule. Obviously, we got out of two-a-days a week ago, and then still, even with this time, have been in single-day practices and have really gone into prep a little bit early for South Carolina. So, we've got a lot of competition across the board. I know the depth chart was released earlier this morning. You guys know me. That's an ongoing fluid situation. So you can ask all the questions you want about what looks on paper. I would wait to see who runs out there in Columbia. So the only reason I give that out is because AC said you guys needed one. And that's the truth. I mean, I'm not you can take it for what it's worth. So whoever runs out there, that's a pretty good look at what it is. We're going to rotate guys on a defensive line. There's some young guys that are going to play, which gives us some depth. I think our running back situation, I don't know really, does it matter who runs out there on the first snap? They're all going to play. A bunch of those receivers are going to play. That's really a list of who we anticipate getting in the game. It's about what I'd say based on the performance so far. So schedule-wise, I think, it's all over the place. I know people have, criticized our schedule. Then I look up the next day, and I think we've got people have ranked it one of the top 5 toughest schedules in the country. 6 ranked opponents. We're playing 4 on the road. That's a pretty significant, not just road schedule, but schedule for us. And fortunately, though, I think our team is at a place right now where they're excited to play. I think there's been enough said about, outside the program of what people think we are, and I think our guys are anxious to get on the field and play somebody else. So, questions?
Can you provide a Devontae Harris update at all?
Devontae is still, I think, when I told you, gave his injury report early, which some people really kind of screwed up. It was a serious injury, and I think early it was 4 to 6 weeks, and so we're a couple weeks into that, and without going into detail, I'd still say he's probably a month away, maybe or somewhere in there.
Kind of along those housekeeping lines, Victor Davis, is he eligible to play? He's done with suspension.
Yeah, he is. We've had a number of things that he had to satisfy during his suspension. He was suspended from all athletic activities for a while, and then just to get back into good graces, and then he's had to complete a number of other things, and there's still a lot of things. And I would say this, that we have a system in place, I think, that has a punishment component an educational component, and he is still involved in all of those. But he's completed the things necessary to get back and be able to be a part of this football program.
So no longer suspended?
That's what I said.
Okay.
Kevin, what has Armani Watt shown you throughout camp?
I think Armani has really gotten better. I think, it was a situation where he was taking steps day by day. And then Floyd Raven missed a couple practices, which gave him the opportunity to take a lot of reps instead of half the reps, and kind of moved him from second team all the way to first team. And then, you look up and he starts feeling comfortable out there and making calls. I think the ability to have Howard out there with him, who's played a lot of football, to let him be able to play more than be a quarterback, helped him a little bit too. And he's made great strides. He's proven that he's willing to tackle, makes good decisions. He's still in the learning process. He's a young guy, but we've been pleased with his development and pleased with how he's approached camp. I think you always worry about young guys and on big stages. I think we've heard me talk about, we've really put ourselves and played more situational football to try to get really some of the young guys ready to go, instead of just not knowing what they're doing, but putting them in situations hopefully that they'll face this season, and particularly on the road early, so they're not thinking as much as reacting. And he has had a great camp with that. The mistakes that he has made, you look up in the next practice or the next day, he's not making that same mistake twice. And that's what you want to see out of young guys, and I think that's why his growth has come so quickly.
What are your expectations for Josh Reynolds?
When we recruited Josh, when we went to watch him, I had the privilege of not only watching the video but watching him live, and getting ready for, he was practicing, and I looked at the coach at David Beatty. I said, this guy is Darrell Walker, except he's where Darrell Walker is right now. Darrell Walker came into our program, one of the first guys we signed that, really a similar story, qualifier out of high school, undersized, kind of thin, goes to junior college, but he was there 2 years. And Darrell was one of those stories that, just like I say, a lot of junior college, just about the time they figure it out and get really proficient at what they're doing, they're out the door. The thing about Josh is that he's a one-year JC guy. He's got 3 years. And I think where he was, what I watched at junior college, was where Darrell Walker was leaving last year. So, is that saying that he's got that skill set? Yeah, because he's a little bit taller, a little bit longer. I don't know what Darrell had, 700, 800 yards last year. So if we can get that kind of production out of Josh in year one, that's not a little bit of pressure on him, huh? No, but, nobody ever thought that was going to happen with Darrell either. And he's got that kind of skill set, I'll put it that way.
You have a fairly regimented process for getting ready for a road game. Has that changed up or more difficult playing on Thursday?
No. Let's back it up a couple days. We'll practice on Sunday for really the only time this year, just because of the amount of days that go into it. So basically the way it sets up, we just back it up from Thursday, and Thursday becomes Saturday. So you can go backwards from there. Wednesday's Friday, and Tuesday's Thursday.
Would you take this over Arkansas State at home to open or something? Because there's an awful lot of hype. People have been talking about it for 7-8 months. This type of setting, first game on SEC Network and stuff.
I don't know. I think there's benefits to all of them. It depends on every coach. It doesn't really matter. Not to me. I think, your fans, I think the big thing is most guys would rather play at home your first game. So whether it's a top 10 opponent, whether it's, you know, an FCS opponent, you know, that's to me, it's preparation's preparation. And the way we do things is, you know, we're worried about us. And we try to focus on us more than we focus on the opponent, if that makes sense. In our preparation and our level of performance. So, you know, the challenging part I think in this deal is with the number of young players is not knowing how they're going to react in a hostile environment on the road. And so, you know, we'll see where that is because that's hard to duplicate.
On your running backs, am I to assume that it's alphabetical? Trey Carson?
I thought, didn't I cover that early about the depth chart is for you guys to look at?
Well, these are
And
actually alphabetically, so I
yeah.
was going to ask you, Trey Carson had said that he thinks y'all are going to run more this year with your running backs. And can you talk about how they've been doing in practicing and who might be ahead of the
they're all three are going to play. And whoever runs out there the first time doesn't mean that they're going to play the whole game. I think, you know, we talked last year about since I've been here, you know, we had a favorite at running back when I got here, and he didn't play as much as some other guys played. Last year, Ben Molina played because he knew more about the offense than anybody. I think what I've seen happen is that Trey Williams and Brandon Williams have matured and understand now that there's more to the running back position than just running the ball, you know, and ball security, that we will audible, and when we do, your ability to block and pick up people is important because you can have a direct effect on the quarterback getting sacked or injured if you don't know what you're doing. And so it's hard for us to put you in the game and say, hey, we're not going to audible. And by game 6, when you go in the game, we're going to run it. They have coaches too, so they'll figure that out. And we got to be able to check plays and do things. So I think Trey Williams and Brandon Williams, and particularly Brandon Williams, I think Brandon Williams has had as good of a camp as anybody and has really shown a maturity that he has not shown since he's been here. I think he's approached the camp with the seriousness about and a purpose about him being able to be trustworthy at everything, hanging on to the ball, getting out of the backfield and catching the ball, and being able to deal with people from a protection standpoint, because you know he was, those two guys are littler guys. You know, Trey Williams is a shorter guy, but he's about 190, 195 right now. And then Brandon has been a guy that's been really a slight built guy. That's why they call him Slim. So it's been his nickname since I've known him. But you know, he's a guy that eats like crazy down there, and I wish I had his metabolism, because he's got 2 or 3 plates and he's 190. He's between 100 and 195 pounds, and that's it. So you know, that's his strength has improved, and that's what he's had to have to be a complete back.
What's to say about speeding? He's not only a starting receiver, but a starting punt returner as a true freshman.
It says that you know, he's got a skill set that we think that we need to utilize, and that he's demonstrated, you know, in practice that he can handle it. And again, he's another one of those young guys we got to see what's going to happen. You know, we've got. We've tried to put him in situations that they keep the pressure on him and at receiver, and then try to keep the pressure on him at punt returner. But until you're out there by yourself and it's under the lights and people are yelling and screaming, that's something that we're going to see. But, we've done that before. Trey Carson was back for the opening kickoff against Florida. People have forgotten about that. And he was back there doing his little dance or whatever he does. I don't know, which, I was a little bit worried, but he was in his own world, and the rest is history. So he's, at different times, what's the difference? Experience, as I told you last year, experience is all relative. If you've never done it and you're a junior, unless you've been back there by yourself, then what's the difference between being back there? It's the first time anyway, no matter how many you've caught. So, it gets back to what we talked about practice, about your ability to demonstrate to the coaching staff and to your teammates that you're trustworthy, that you'll do what we ask you to do to the best of your ability, and you're the best guy for the job. And so, last year we made some decisions based on ball security. That's why you saw Travis back there a bunch. The main goal is to possess the ball. And so, that's where we start. And then after that, anything after that's gravy.
Coach, a lot similar here, I guess, with the changing of the guard at quarterback. The same goes for South Carolina, even though Dylan Thompson did get quite a bit of playing time last season. But what do you see from him as a signal caller for them?
I see a productive system. I mean, you look at what Coach Spurrier has done, 3 straight 11-win years. You go look back through that, he was close to those numbers, 8, 9, 10 wins earlier with different quarterbacks. And so, I think there's not any question based on his track record of not just the player, but the system being able to work, and him being able to work his quarterbacks in those systems. So, they're going to be good at what they do, and that's never going to change. I think Mike Davis is an exceptional running back. I think he's proven that he can run with power for a shorter guy, but he's got some strength, and he's a wire-to-wire guy and a home run threat at any time. So they've got great tight ends, experienced offensive line, big old offensive line, as big as we'll see probably them in Mississippi State. So they've got some real weapons and some things that I think, a skill set that will help their quarterback play, kind of like ours. And offensively, I don't look for them to drop off at all.
You had Cliff in Houston, went from kind of quarterbacks to offensive coordinator. Now with Jake here at A&M, what's that transition like for those coaches, and how has Jake's approach changed going into last year, this year?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that it's. I don't think it changes much. I think what happens is, we've got a system that's in place that we believe in, and I think each guy kind of puts his own personality on it. I'll just put it that way. I think we have discussions about where we're headed, what kind of ideas that they individually want to implement, and that's good. I think, anytime that it's all coming from one person and you only see things a certain way, I think you can get stagnant and stale. And I think, in those situations when a guy has some personality to put into some ideas, I think that's great, and it's good to keep things that way. So each guy is, has had a little bit different spin on what we're doing, and that's an ongoing conversation. But I think the transition's been good, and a little bit more variety going right now. I think because of personnel. Because of, like I said last year, people talked about Cam Clear, why wasn't he playing as much? A lot of it had to do with the field being spread for Johnny. And bring Cam Clear in the game, you bring 1 or 2 more guys closer to Johnny, that wouldn't, I'm not real smart, but that wasn't the real plan for us last year. So the more people that were spread out, and the more space there was, the better he operated anyway. And that's not the case right now. So, we've got young quarterbacks, and Cam's a exceptional player and can be a real weapon for us, and we're going to use it.
Kevin, you have your favorite four next to left guard with Bramley and Harrison. Where would you say that stands?
Jarvis had a tough offseason. You guys, he missed the end of the bowl game with the calf, popped that deal. That's not easy. Had off-season shoulder surgery. Played really the last 3-4 games with a shoulder that was torn up. So he had a tough offseason. That doesn't allow a big man really to be in the kind of shape he needs to be. So, he's still working at it. So, we'll see where that is.
Joseph Cheek seems like a pretty neat story, an Aggie legacy, and a guy who's paid his dues, it seems like. Could you just speak to what he's done?
Yeah, Joe he's a guy who, I think, he played before we got here more than he's played since I've been here. So, he could easily have been bitter about this whole thing. And he's an example of a guy who has really worked at it, has taken coaching, has accepted where he was and not just took it, but said, you know what, I want to play. And has moved from tackle to guard, where he's probably better suited. He's a big old guy. He looks great getting off the bus, but now he even looks better because he can play. And it's kind of funny about this, we're a week into two-a-days, and he walked by me, and I probably shouldn't tell you this, but he walked by me and he said, you know what? I said, Cheek, you know what, guess what? I haven't yelled at you in a long time. And he said, that means I must be doing pretty good, huh, Coach? I said, that's right. So that kind of all goes hand in hand. I think I used to yell Cheek all the time when I first got here, but he was playing tackle. And we were asking him to do a lot of things that he's out there trying to. He was a backup to Luke, and you got Luke and Jake out there, and then there's Cheek, and then DeMontre just runs right around him. And so, we really didn't know the first couple of days what we had there. We just knew that Cheek couldn't block DeMontre. I didn't know that DeMontre was going to go on and do all that, and then these other guys are pretty good. So, he worked himself into where he is right now. And, that's an example of a guy who I think is part of the player development situation and finding the right place for him, but also a guy who said, you know what, this is not going the way I thought it was going to go, but didn't bury himself, didn't put his head down, just said, hey, what can I do to get better? And that takes some real maturity. And so, now he's a guy who, he and Grambling, by the way, are guys who, now have come on that when we first got here, would have had a real hard time getting on the field. And they're not on the field because they're lesser players. They've worked themselves into being really good players, and I think that's really a really good example for a lot of players on this team, based on where they are right now. There's guys that aren't going to play the 28th that we've got to continue to develop in this program, and they've got to continue to develop to be like Joe Cheek.
A lot of new faces defensively for South Carolina. What have you seen from them?
I see a defense that has been excellent. The D coordinator does a great job of getting personnel, looking at protections, getting guys in the right spot. You hear a lot of different things coming out over there of, whether they're going to odd front, even front, all kinds of stuff. We got to prepare for it all. But, I think that they've shown the ability to be a really top-notch defense. I saw a stat the other day. I think them and Alabama, one of the few teams that have held people under, 21 points, something like that, over the last couple of years. So, they know what they're doing. And you don't win 11 games 3 years in a row in this league, not being pretty good across the board. So, like I said, this will be a great test for us right now. We got a lot of guys that I'm looking forward to getting on the field, and I think they are too. You know, and against a quality program like South Carolina, you know, in a top 10 opponent in an SEC game. You know, for a lot of these guys, and for practice purposes, back to what you asked, Brent. You know, from a practice standpoint, it becomes a little bit easier because, you know, when they walk in the locker room and they come down the hallway and they see, it helps a little bit when they see, you know, me get off the bus and Coach Spurrier get off the bus, and they show all that stuff about every 10 minutes, that commercial. You know, you don't have to say, hey, guys, let's go. You just see that, and that gets them fired up. So, you know, it's a big stage for us. It's a great stage for us to start the season. And you know, if you can't be excited about that, you're in the wrong business.
One more. Getting back to that offensive line, you said you're always looking for a nickel, not the 5 pennies. So where is this year's nickel compared to the last couple of nickels?
You know, I would say we're right where we were last year. You know, last year you had a new piece in Mike Matthews, and you really had a new situation moving. Everybody says, well, you know, you just moved Jake from right to left. Well, that's a different post foot. It's a different lead hand. It's different. And the same thing's been with Cedric. So I would say right now and we moved Cedric from guard to tackle. So it's kind of ironic. It's really kind of a similar situation. Does that make sense? Because of we've got guys who have played substantially. You know, Jarvis got hurt last year, in the middle of the year too. Cedric missed 2 games last year. Then we're moving Jarvis around, and we played Grambling a little bit and Cheek. So all those guys have played. And so I would say that right now we're about where we were last year, because Mike is really the only guy that's returning at the same spot, although we've got 6 guys that have played significant minutes and played in real ball games in the offensive line. They're just in different positions. Does that make sense?
All right. Thanks, Coach.
That good? All right. Thanks, guys.